Welcome to Raging Bullets, a DC Comics fan podcast, episode 118, part B. Welcome to Raging Bullets. I am Sean Whalen, Dr. Norge on the comics forums, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Jim. Can't sleep, must podcast. So says the sensei of the whatnot, because it's 11:30 at night and I gotta work tomorrow. Segulin.
How's it going, eh?
We're actually right now. We just got done recording with Freddie Williams, and it's Thursday night. And as you know, this is what I've said. If we do Part B, we'll throw that out on Thursday night. And we had a wonderful conversation, which is going to be on next episode with Freddie E. Williams II, who is the artist on The Flash. And we're going to be discussing The Flash number 240, which was the Dark Side Club issue. And he just had a wonderful conversation with him just about his art process and The Flash and this particular issue and what it was like to be working again on some of the character concepts that were introduced in Seven Soldiers and his how-to book. And there's all kinds of things. We went on a lot of different tangents and things. He's just a wonderful guest. So that's going to be our next episode. And
yeah, we had a very interesting conversation about gorillas. And I'll just leave it at that and let you guys wait for it.
No. You'll have to find out next week on that one. But also in this episode, we are continuing the second part of our Legion of the Superheroes discussion with Matt Kramer from the forums, who was our first place contest winner. And we're going to be jumping on after this. In a few weeks, we're going to be having Joseph Luciano on. We're going to do Starman Wicked Inclination. Then we're finally going to finish that contest, which happened so long ago that we have this new batch of listeners now that have no idea what we're talking about. We're talking about this contest. Basically, it was a contest gone horribly wrong. We have very patient winners. We had a contest where basically 3 winners would have the chance to drive the segment that we do on the show. And we got so caught up with so many other show segments and topics that this has been put off and put off and put off. And we actually eagerly want to do another contest, and we've come up with a way to structure our contest so that we'll have like one winner and get them on more frequently and gauge it around our in-stock trades book of the month. So what we want to do is make sure to get in our listeners from the previous contest first before we announce that contest. So we have things in the work. But this is the second part of that discussion. Hopefully, if you didn't listen to 118 Part A, you are downloading that and listening to it first, because I highly recommend that as we jump in and continue our discussion and finish it up on this wonderful trade paperback, Legion of the Superheroes and Eye for an Eye, our in-stock trades book of the month. Jim, what kind of podcast are we?
Well, we are a spoiler podcast. We go in-depth in a plotline, story twist, and whatnot of the comics we're reviewing. So if we're going over something you haven't read, you may want to come back later so you can better enjoy the show.
Let's bump you right back into that discussion. Well, we left off with our last recording. We left off with issue 4, so let's go ahead and jump right into that. There's that cover. It was one of the covers that really stood out for me. It was the single hand with the dripping blood coming down at that point. I'm not a huge fan of hero death. And I should clarify that, because there are reasons to do it, and it makes for a great sense of drama and shows that they're facing life and death situations all the time. My response at the end, though, is always, I wish they didn't do that, and now, if they told the story right, you should feel that way. So that's why I said I should kind of clarify my position, because the writers who tell the story right at the end, you should feel like, geez, I wish they didn't do that, because you connect with the character. That's why I'm not a fan of it, because, it's like you're left with kind of this buzzkill at the end, because you like the character so much. You come to care for these people like friends, and when one of those friends is killed, it's actually painful. Of course, then this leads to things like Rebirth, Quiver, Lightning Saga, and I could go on and on over really well done ways that they've brought characters back where after them being gone for a certain amount of time because they died. So it's kind of like where people kind of say, well, death stinks in comics because it's not permanent. And I'm kind of like, no, death's really good in comics because it's not permanent. Because if a writer has a good opportunity to bring a character back, you can take a valuable, meaningful death and turn it into a valuable, meaningful resurrection, as long as you've got a point for bringing the character back. Like they did with Rebirth. Rebirth's a classic example of that, where look where we got with Green Lantern out of all that stuff. Sinestro Corps. We got the Black Lantern saga coming. All that stuff. I mean, it's like a perfectly good and valid reason to ignore the fact that the character died.
Yeah. Well, also look at with Flash now, with Barry coming back. So it's we're going to see that hopefully used really well in Final Crisis and whatnot. So it's
Matt, what are your feelings on character death in comics? Is it something that you like, you don't like? It depends on the storytelling. Where are you at as far as that?
It depends on the storytelling. If it's well done, I'm fine with it. But if it's just done for a shock value as opposed to part of a story, then I'm a little less forgiving. But as long as it's done well, I'm fine with it.
I agree with you. That's what it is. It tears at the heartstrings. And I actually do think well done story, when it's done well in a story, it's where I sit there and go afterwards, geez, I wish you didn't do that because I really liked it. And they do it, that drama. So that's why I should say I'm saying I'm not a fan of it. It's not really the case. I'm a fan when there's a good storytelling reason to do it, when there's a whole point to it. And I'm also just as much a fan of bringing a good character back if a writer says, hey, I've got a really good idea here. And again, exactly like you're saying, Matt, when it's not just done to bring a character back to life for shock value. Because then what ends up happening is you bring this character back to life and you're like, okay, why did you do this? Nobody had any plans for this character beyond the initial reappearance, so what was the point? You totally got rid of this very valid reason for killing the character, and you bring them back and there's no point. I think it's just kind of important to note here because that's what happens in this issue. We do see a character death. And it's actually also the issue where we start to see the Legion of Supervillains become divided. They had a chance to kill some of the Legion on multiple occasions, but were yanked away. Nemesis Kid is accused of being a coward by Tyr, who almost killed Saturn Girl, who was pregnant at the time, too, which really baffles me on that. I mean, the power of that moment to look at a pregnant woman and actually want to kill her. I can't think of a more violent, villainous thing to do. I talked at the beginning about how the pact itself was something where I was like, wow, that's a pretty deep thing for all of them to agree to do, to kill one Legionnaire. But Tyr was going to, not only was he going to be the first one to kill a Legionnaire, but he was going to kill a pregnant Legionnaire.
The sick joke on that is 2 for 1, but the truth of it is, you think about it, just looking, and you see that pregnant, you're like, was he actually thinking that? Was he thinking that I'm not only going to kill a Legionnaire, I'm going to kill a future generation Legionnaire? Was that entering his head or was he saying she's probably the weakest of them because of her pregnancy? It's you're looking for, it's like the lion looking for the 3-legged antelope. You want to find the one that's going to be your easy kill. It's going to be the least amount of work for you. So it's multiple different levels of what's going through that dude's head, or it could just be the sick pleasure of saying, "Hey, I killed a pregnant woman." You don't know what it is going on in what he's thinking.
Matt, is this traditionally Tyr? I'm assuming on his own, in some level, has popped up a lot in Legion storytelling. Am I right on that?
I'm sure he probably has. This is pretty much my only exposure I've had with the character.
Okay.
I think he was a part of the Assassin's Guild or something like that, but I'm not super familiar with him as a character.
Yeah, because there was reference to the Assassin's Guild in the storytelling with reference to Bloke. Or is it Block? Block.
Yeah, whichever.
Yeah, that he was a part of that, which I didn't. That was neat in this story too, because I learned something new in the storytelling about that character. I didn't realize that this was a character who had come from the Assassin's Guild. So that was quite interesting. Chameleon Chief stands up and takes an opposing viewpoint, because Tyr wants to go back, and he said, you're a coward, Nemesis Kid. We had a chance to kill Legionnaires. We made this pact. This is what we're going to do. Chameleon Chief stands up, though, and takes the opposing viewpoint, and it isn't until Lightning Lord and Sun Emperor, who are the heavy hitters, break up the argument and remind them that this Legion has its own sort of trinity. There's Nemesis Kid, Lightning Lord, and Sun Emperor. They need to stay together to succeed. Now, here's the problem. With these egos, I don't care if they have their own trinity or not, one of them would eventually turn on the other. And I would say this would start with Nemesis Kid and his goals. Because you take a look at that, he's looking to be Emperor. And if he sees any possibility that Lightning Lord or Sun Emperor could usurp that authority, they're dead. I don't know how you guys feel about that. I don't see these guys long-term couldn't stay together. Matt, what do you think?
Yeah, definitely they're bound to fall apart.
It's the one big flaw with a villain supergroup that they can't, in the end, get along. They all think that they're better than the person who is in charge. It's a fundamental problem with, the people who are the greedy people, the power-hungry people, the people who would be the villains. It's kind of an interesting. If they were to stay together, they would win, but because of their nature, they can't.
After the conversation ends, Nemesis Kid, kind of in a way to, after, it's been kind of tabled, he says, okay, here's what we can do, though. Zimmer is able to send you back in a small squad while we're in the middle of the passage. So you could go back and, take a few out, but then we'll pull you back, before the actual passage is complete. So they go back and do that. Now, as we take a look in space, I did like the small details in this bit. They're speculating on the motives and how to help their teammates when Colossal Boy votes to land because he's getting queasy. And it made so much sense. He's not one with flight powers. They're in outer space, so there's that whole issue anyway. This isn't his comfort zone. Mon-El and Sunboy, and you didn't have to do this, but they're fusing together some space rocks to allow them to rest. I liked that.
Yeah.
It was just a tiny little thing. It didn't need to be in there, but it kind of added like a whole reality to the situation. They're on their location and some of the limitations of that location for some of the heroes. I really found that to be like a charming bit in this storytelling.
Yeah, it reminded me of the one Next Generation, where they were doing the zero-G. They're outside the Enterprise, and instead of don't look down, like when you're climbing a thing, don't look up, because if you look up, you'll see all of black space around you, so you'll freak you out. So you got to concentrate on what's below you, on the ship below you. So I saw that exact same thing, like, oh, that's kind of cool. I like little attention to detail, just a little extra into the story. Does it advance the story on greatly? No, but it's that endearing quality towards the characters, towards the title.
Is this something that, in your Legion reading, is this something that's kind of a staple of the Legion? Tiny details like this, Matt?
Yeah, something like this is thrown in every now and then that just shows that most of the teammates are friends and they'll help each other out when they can.
I think that theme, it's funny, for anybody who's reading Action Comics right now, you see that continued theme of friendship and family and, there's that kind of, support group piece that's in there. Even though they bicker, even though, and what good friends don't? I mean, you and I do it all the time, Jim. But I mean, that's kind of, to me, again, that's that realism that I like. They're little tiny things that add and round off characters that, to me, it's what makes this. You're right, Jim, when you said you're Legion happy right now. I'm really into these characters, and that's when we go to Chicago, that is actually going to be a lot of my seeking out is going to be of Legion material, because I want to read more. I want to follow more of this. And that, to me, is probably the greatest compliment I can give both this trade and the current Legion storytelling, is that I want to seek this out. Over on Arando, Isla is realizing the hopelessness of staying put. Mech will kill her to try and get her to convert. This would be really scary, because she knows, my brother's snapped, and I'm toast, because I can't do this fundamentally, morally. I mean, because forget about the fact that she could even pretend that she's going to join them to somehow survive, because people will do that in hopeless situations like that. She knows that if she does that, he's going to turn her brains into scrambled eggs.
Yeah, and not only that, but it's to join up with that crew, she's going to have to kill a Legionnaire. It's not just saying, oh yeah, I'm with you guys. It's, okay, yeah, I'm with you guys. Okay, let's go kill our brother.
Right.
That's why, Lightning Lord wants her, is to kill the brother. And I'm like, so you can't,
So it's a double whammy, self-preservation and, moral. It's, wow. She bangs the gauntlets out of frustration and is shocked to find the walls blast open. And it's so cool where this goes, because I like that as a reader, you kind of like, wait a minute. You don't know, she doesn't know, You kind of guess what's going on here, but it really was a nice build as well because, again, you felt like you were journeying with her. And this has been a consistent strength throughout this entire read, has been that you really kind of feel like you're in there with the friends. And that was something I really, really got out of this. She sees her former teammates captured and promises to call for help. Her promises of making things lighter, her powers of, helps if I can read my notes. Her powers of making things lighter are useless for something on this scale. She also promises return to help them. Now imagine that. To me, that would be a truly difficult thing to do. You're faced with your friends, you're looking at them, and saying, guys, I'm going to have to come back for you. How do you do that?
That'd be a real tough thing to do. Yeah, you think about it. It's like one of her reasoning was she didn't want to set off an alarm or anything like that, but I don't know. It's that whole thing where I'm always big on call for backup. She's in the middle of the enemy territory. There's her backup right there. So
well, but to address that, she is going for backup.
Yeah.
But, I mean, how do you guys? I mean, like Matt, how do you feel about that? Do you think she made the right move?
It's probably pretty much the only move she could have made.
Yeah, because it was a tough situation because she wasn't aware, obviously, of what was really going on with her at this point. Now, let me ask you guys this. Do you think had she known, I mean, might as well just address it, her lightning powers are back. She doesn't know it yet, though. And we as the reader at that point might have been guessing, and I know I was guessing at this point that, hey, something's going on here, but I wasn't 100% clear that was where this was heading. Do you think had she known, kind of geeky speculation, Matt, do you think she would have rescued them?
She probably would have at least tried to, because she doesn't think her lightning powers are useless like her powers of making things lighter are.
Yeah. Jim, what do you think?
Yeah, I co-sign with that one. If she knew she had some, more power, she probably would have gone, okay, let's go on the offensive now. So, and it's, as I say, I'm torn on what she did, if she did the right thing. It's, on one hand, I'm sitting there saying she should have freed her team and, they could have worked together. On the other hand, I'm like, okay, it's better to, to do a little bit, have come from a better, situation where exactly where the bad guys are. What are they doing? What is, their our targets? What's the objective? It's kind of like do a recon first and then free the crew.
And she was figuring that if she frees everybody, they're going to know that they were freed.
Right. So that's why I'm
and that they've got a numbers game going on at this point. They're not going to be able to win. So it actually, she was going for the stealth. Figuring that, hey, we'll just, go a little stealthy here and try to do that. I did like the inner dialogue, though, where she felt that her light, powers of making things lighter would be useless in a battle of this scale and this magnitude, and that really worked for me as well. You got to wonder if that isn't psychologically part of the reason why she's off the team as well, because she seems very down on the powers. Right. Matt, is that what you got out of it as well?
Yeah, pretty much. And that's always kind of confused me why she thought her powers were so useless, because someone like Starboy, who's one of the most powerful Legionnaires, his power is basically making things heavier or adjusting gravity or something like that. So you'd think that she probably could use her powers if she'd just accept them and try to use them.
Especially in a squad-based situation where you've got multiple heroes there. If you're teaming up with somebody, her throwing somebody off guard leaves an open opportunity for somebody else to take that person out, adjusting their weight, adjusting that type of thing. I like that.
Right.
What do you guys feel, because I want to talk about, this whole segment jumps into some really interesting moments of Karate Kid. Karate Kid, how do you guys feel about him? Matt, how do you feel about Karate Kid in general as a character?
I really like him. He's the human member of the team. He doesn't have any powers other than he's good at karate. So he was the everyman on the team.
Yeah, he's like the Batman without the toys. He's the
exactly.
hero. Yeah, he disciplined himself, and in a way, I kind of like now. On the 6 side, I kind of enjoy seeing the many deaths of Karate Kid, but I'm rooting for the hat trick on the Legion of Three Worlds. We've gotten 2 down. Let's go for the third. Come on. But I know it's sick, and I fully admit that it's sick. But I do enjoy the character and the concept of the character, which is the bizarre thing on that statement.
I think it's scaring me that you think the concept of the character is that he just dies. Honestly, here's the funny part. I've heard the cracks about, Super Karate, and I can't disagree more. He's a damn cool character to me. I love heroes who build themselves. Like I said, I'm more of a Batman guy, so I geeked out when those two met in current continuity, and the respect he showed to Bruce. That was, to me, those were some really powerful moments I really enjoyed. To see him now working his way out of his bonds in this storytelling, overcoming the machine, because that is what he's done his whole life, to perfect himself, to keep perfecting himself and growing as a hero, because, he doesn't have the gift of the powers. He's got to make that happen. He's trained, pushed himself, become something more. How can you not love this guy? I don't want every hero like this, but that's the great part about having him on the team, is that he offers that little dynamic. So it's a cool character.
Yeah, I kind of wonder, how did he even get the invite to join the Legion superheroes without having the flash and the pop of a meta power? And that would be a cool story to read. Like, how did Karate Kid become a member of Legion superheroes? Did he do like some significant event, said, wow, this guy should be one of us? Or was it one of those things where they just introduced the character and not had a backstory behind it?
Matt, do you know his back? I did some reading on it, but do you know his backstory? Have you read any of his backstory?
Unfortunately, not much. I have his first appearance sitting in my pile of books waiting to be read.
I know from what I read on the net that he and Nemesis Kid, and there was one other member of the team. I want to say it's Pharaoh Lad, but please don't quote me, because I read so much stuff, in preparing for this, just from fan sites and things like that, just to kind of get my head around some of these characters. And my focus obviously was on Nemesis Kid, because I wanted to kind of get a background, at least in my head, of like, okay, who is this guy? What is his tie with the Legion? Just in case it came up in our discussion. But I know that they joined around the same time frame, and I guess just from what I read in the showcase, if you want to see the early way that they did it, people tried out for the Legion, and they usually had a set of tasks that they had to do to prove themselves as members. They also had to show that their powers were somehow something that would be useful to the team. That was where the supervillains, like Night Girl, for example, because of the fact that during the daytime her powers were useless, she had this like glaring weakness that wouldn't let her become part of the team. I remember Supergirl, in one of the showcase stories I read, Supergirl tried to join the team, and because of the effects of a certain kind of kryptonite, she didn't have the powers at the time, so she couldn't complete the requirements to be a Legionnaire. So when her powers come back, you would think that they would have just said, well, okay, you pass, you're in. She had to wait till the whole other year to try out again. So they were pretty strict on what they were looking for to be a Legionnaire. So I'm guessing he just had something that they found would add to the team. I don't know what you guys think.
Yeah.
Because, it's a very unique... what weaknesses does he have, really? So he's human, big deal. All these people come from different races. And some of the things, especially later on in Legion stories, we see that they're inherent to the race. Like Chameleon Boy. That seems to be, that's a trait that's inherent to his race of people.
So he's kind of cheating, man. That's normal. He's not special.
As the hunting crew leads after the Legion, we see the same bickering that we see within the Legion, but this time within the villains. Isla stowed away in hopes of getting close to the team to bring them back. She was hoping that, okay, if I go with the hunting party here, I'm going to get hooked up with the Legionnaires again, and I can bring them back with me. And this is a quick way to do that, hopefully with a smaller squad. I do like the choices she has to make here. She knows they have a cannon ready to take down her friends. She rips the wires, taking out the electric console. That is when she realizes about her powers, because she was actually taking a risk of sacrificing herself there. Is that how you guys read that?
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, definitely. That was a cool moment, for me, because I like seeing the hero say, okay, this is going to sting, and they'd go ahead and do it.
But I also thought that she realized she was, first of all, she was hiding, because she knew if they knew her whereabouts, she's dead. But beyond that, I took the way that she was talking about the council as, hey, I'm going to die here if I rip these out, possibly.
Mm-hmm.
You know, for not just from the villains, I think from the console itself. I loved the moment, though, because you see her carrying herself in a different way in the artwork. The confidence in the doorway as she's standing there. She is lightning lass, and it was just a great moment. You know, she carried herself that way. It looked really cool in the art. You see a tone shift away that she's carrying herself, and kudos to the art team on that, because those are moments where I think artists truly shine, the ones that can show a difference in emotion in the character. And you see something different. I love that moment.
Yeah, that was a can.
Crack-a-thoom.
Oh yeah.
It was either mech'd or the gauntlets or some combo of it. And there's a history of that with the family. That that's how Lightning Lad came back to light. For example, being hit with so much lightning that it will reignite something within them. So I liked it because it really fit for me that any one of those combos of things could have worked. And I liked that it wasn't really totally spelled out. She speculated, and that's what we're left with, to kind of just speculate like she is. And that, to me, again, added a reality, because it's clear she's never going to really know.
And she's also not going to know if it's a temporary thing, if they'll eventually go back to light powers, or it's that whole unknown out there that is, you wouldn't have a definitive answer. You wouldn't have if this was real life, you wouldn't be 100% certain on anything. And that's kind of a cool moment.
What I really liked here, too, is the hero steps up at this point. We get to see her, she basically, because of her sabotage, now she can't go get the other Legionnaires. She has no choice but to make the decision to go back. And she chooses to do that. She's like, okay, I can offer something at least, so let me go back and do that now. And it was nice to see that, again, that kind of role shift. With the whole team in outer space, Cosmic Boy is the only one to defend the Earth. And I like that they did shift to this, because a lot of times their defenders, the Legion headquarters is on Earth. They don't know the goals of the Legion of Supervillains. Are they going to come back and assault Earth? So they address this, and he calls in Night Girl, who notices the fear, and she promptly tells him that I've never seen Legionnaires so scared before, when he's having that conversation with Dream Girl, and he tells her that fear is healthy and it makes you think, and it does make sense that all of our emotions serve a purpose. I like comics, there's a message in here.
Mm-hmm.
Basically something that makes you better. As a kid, that's one of the things that I really attribute to comics. I think it's made me, on some level, a better person. And because you strive to do, to feel the way that these heroes do. And it was a cool message in the storytelling that don't let fear control you. Don't let, any of your emotions control you. Balance them out and find a way to use them for the situation. On Orlando, Karate Kid freed the others, and now this squad, led by Element Lad, is looking to take out the Power Spheres. Karate Kid notices Nemesis Lad, and takes this point to drop down, it's a Nemesis Kid, and takes this point to drop down and face Nemesis Kid. He once framed Karate Kid as a traitor. They both kind of originally joined the Legion together, so there's a rivalry here. I don't know how long-standing it is between the two of them. I don't know if they've had other encounters outside of the early days of the Legion. Did you read anything else with them, Matt?
Yeah, they were rivals pretty much since they debuted. For a while in the 70s, Karate Kid had his own title, and most of it was him versus Nemesis Kid.
So there's so that's great. So actually this was something for people who had read his solo series as well, had the opportunity to see that this is kind of the coup de grace with the two of them.
Exactly.
As the two of them are fighting, remember as you die, you are only a man, one man, for all your training, and that your death will be opening up my reign over Orlando and a universe that waits. The ego of that moment of Nemesis Kid. I liked the dialogue, though, because you got to really just see how twisted he was and how he really believed that, there's no other way this is going to go than I am going to wind up being an emperor. And Element Land goes to change the power spheres into harmless gas, but then he's stopped by Cosmic King. I really liked the fact that there was this sense that every time the Legion was about to do something heroic or basically to take out the Legion of Supervillains, they were there ready to stop them. Because it added the concept that these aren't pushover villains, if that makes sense. There was a real sense of drama and intelligence, and really that they felt like they were the perfect nemesis for this group.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we've said it a bunch of times that it's, a strong villain makes the hero seem that much better. And it just makes, if a hero has to rise up and just go above what they normally would have to do to win, it makes you go, yeah, all right. It's more enjoyable.
Especially in this case, because of the fact that this story does lead to a death, you want to feel like this is dire. Like that there is a reason why somebody would sacrifice themselves. When I said before I wasn't a fan of death, it's not that. It's more so that I want to see the drama unfold in such a way where I feel like the death was important. And even when I do feel it's important, it pulls at your heartstrings. And this issue did for me in a big, big way. Nemesis Kid is winning the battle with Karate Kid, but I loved his determination. He keeps finding ways to hit Nemesis Kid, who is adapting his abilities as they fight, which I thought was interesting to see that battle. And I'm like, how is Karate Kid even hitting him? And it was really because he was putting forth 110% and trying to stay one step ahead of a guy who really is learning from him. If I'm getting that right, Matt, am I right in assuming that's what's going on?
Yep. Nemesis Kid's ability is basically he has the ability to defeat anyone. His powers change based on who is fighting him. So any little bit that Karate Kid gets ahead of him, he's able to compensate for that immediately.
So he's the perfect nemesis.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, hence the name, Nemesis.
Yeah. But I mean, I liked seeing that. I mean, what a great way to look at this guy and see what he's doing here. Karate Kid still falls, though, and we see that at this point. Old Veer versus Ultra Boy was great. Ultra Boy is limited to one power at a time, and I liked how because of the fact that he knows that limitation, he has to strategically use those powers in a chain of sequences in order to try and make that work. The problem for the poor guy is he switches from invulnerability and super strength to speed to hopefully try and take out one of the power spheres. Again, I like this concept of they realized they don't even know what the power spheres are 100% for yet. They don't know what the big plan is. But I liked the concept that they're still struggling to stop those power spheres because they know if they do that, they will halt the villains in their tracks. So he goes and does this, but then, of course, Old Veer with the powers of Mon-El zaps him from a distance and gets like this really perverse pleasure out of it, too. Jackie comes to the aid of her lover as we see a true hero here. Karate Kid knows that he can't survive this, and he also knows that that they have to be stopped. He puts on the flight ring in defiance, flies into the power sphere, destroying it, using himself as a missile, and basically thwarts Nemesis Kid's plans. But he knew he was dying there one way or another, either at the hands of Nemesis Kid or destroying the power sphere. He chose to go out like a hero. If he's going to die, he's going to die in a way that it's of value to his comrades. That, to me, showed a true warrior. And I really, really, if anything, it made me respect him even more than I did at the beginning of all this. So he better not die in Legion of Three Worlds.
It's kind of like the whole thing with the Flash history of running into their death and stuff like that, where we saw Barry do it, we saw Bart where he didn't have his powers but he still fought on. Karate Kid's legacy is that he will never quit. He is willing to sacrifice his life for the good of the universe. So I think we need to honor him by killing him off in Legion of Three Worlds.
You think that's like a tribute to him?
Yeah, it's a tribute to him.
In the epilogue, we see the Legion of Supervillains had beat Element Lad's squad. And I liked that we didn't have to see everyone taken down. That was the important focus was that it was on Karate Kid, but it also gave this sense that while that battle was going on between Karate Kid and Nemesis Kid, there was a continuing battle going on with Element Lad's squad. But our camera focus was naturally where it needed to be at that point in time. Karate Kid's dead. Lightning Lass is heading back to help if possible, just really added a sense of urgency and a way to end the issue with, it was kind of multiple cliffhangers. What's Jackie's reaction going to be? What's going to happen to the Legion that's been captured? And how is Lightning Lass going to assist, if at all? So then we go into issue 5, which to me was for as powerful as issue 4 was, in many ways there were moments in issue 5 that were even more powerful to me, which surprised me, because I figured, okay, this is where we're going to tie everything up nice and neatly in a bow, and we already got the big bang in issue 4. No, there's more. In issue 5, Jackie is clutching her husband's body, enraged as the Legion of Supervillains heads her way. Before she can do anything, though, Neutrax stops her powers, and Lightning Lass has to fly in and risk everything to make the save. And I liked that, because the villains assume that it's Tyr as she's crashing down, but when they see it's her, they attack. Lightning Lord, and these are the moments with Lightning Lord where I'm just kind of like, he's very consistently written as this lunatic with a code. And I like that aspect of him, that he has this code that, don't you touch my blood, because it so fits the name, Lightning Lord. That just screams ego. Again, they may not harm his blood. It's for him to handle. The Chief orders some of the Legion back to Earth as we kind of get flashback to the other heroes, and Dream Girl makes the call to leave some to search for their friends and others to return with her. Sunboy's a little bit of the player in the Legion, too, with that Gigi and they seem to have some sort of thing going on. And again, I liked those little interludes. They were very short, very sweet, very quick. Gave a sense, again, that there's a bigger story to the Legion than just what's contained within these issues. We go back to Lightning Lord versus Lightning Lass, toe-to-toe, full power. He intends to kill her, but even turns on Sun Emperor when he tries to interfere, and that ultimately cost him. Because that distraction is what gave Lightning Lass, and I don't know if you guys read it the same way, that's what gave her the opportunity to take him out.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, definitely. It's funny because they were talking earlier about how old Veer, you can't trust him because he's nuts. And you can't, you got to watch him. In a way, Lightning Lord is showing those same type of, neurotic tendencies that says, okay, I got to back away from this dude. It's, it's going to cost him, and it did, right? We saw right there. He, if you're in the middle of a fight with somebody, especially somebody powerful, you don't sidetrack yourself. You concentrate on the fight at hand, concentrate on the task at hand. It's, I want to say a classic villain mistake, but we've seen heroes do it. We've seen everybody do it. It's just, if you're in the fight, you got to stay in the zone.
Well, arguably, his only real weakness is his ego.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for him, it's a huge weakness because he fully embraces it. He's not even aware it's a weakness, which is probably the worst thing you can have, is a weakness that you embrace. Of course, the Legion of Supervillains stands ready to stop her until all collapse because Element Lad has converted oxygen to helium. No Legionnaire stands alone indeed. And that was one of those, like, hell yeah, yay Legion moments.
Yeah. Now, did all the villains start talking funny when they woke up?
They had clown shoes on, too. It was great, yeah. Now things begin to fall apart for the Legion of Supervillains. Jackie is out to kill Nemesis Kid. Olvir gets his clothes converted to lead, which is kryptonite for the Daxamites. And I liked that. That was a moment where I was like, oh, boy, they really stuck it to him. Shrinking Violet gets revenge on Microlad. Zimmer escapes taking Lightning Lord and Lightning Lass with him, which was nice because, again, it sets up the next issue. And I want to talk about the death of Nemesis Kid, because this was the part where at the beginning of this I said issue 5 here had something important for me. Jackie lost her husband. We see her projection powers kick in, and the cocky Nemesis Kid stepping up. Defiant, though. Look at my eyes, Churl. No power, yours or anyone's, can stop me. And there's terror on his face here, but just such a great moment. He knows how this is going to end. My ancestors were wizards and kings, conquerors. You are a common killer, a mad dog accidentally born in human form. You took my world, made my people slaves, and slew the man I had given my heart to. I need no power to destroy you, save my strength born in my blood. Crack. And I loved how the second R was cracked. We knew that she cracked his neck. We didn't need to see it on screen. It was really one of those moments where I was just like, whoa, very powerful. And where this worked for me, and I want to get your guys' thoughts on this after I talk about this, because I want to see how you guys feel about this. Interesting that when Element Lad shows up, she points out her royal privilege, and that this was an execution. And again, this is the difference between just working on Earth like we see in present day continuity and dealing with other races. This is like a United Nations, and there's a cultural and legal right that is in place based on territory. She executed him on her own world, basically somebody who had enslaved her people, which is her right as a sovereign ruler. Normally, I am not for heroes killing. To me, that becomes the distinction between. I mean, I like characters like your Punishers and things like that, so I'm not saying I don't like those characters, but they're clearly defined that those are the type of characters that they are. But your traditional hero, I don't like killing. It's just something that to me kind of blurs the line between hero and villain. But in this case, based on her reactions and based on these events and the way she explained it, she sold me. I don't know how you guys were, though. Did you guys, how did you feel about this moment and how it played out? Matt, how did you?
It's an intense moment, and it's probably one of my favorite moments in comics, because when it's paired with just the brutality of issue 4, you knew Nemesis Kid had it coming, and he got what he deserved.
Yeah, and that's Jim. What was your thoughts? I mean, I don't know. Do you have anything you want to add to that, or?
Not much to add other than agree completely. That was just, it was a powerful, it was just a great moment in this comic that I was just like, I did put it down and say, whoa, when I read it, just because, just that, snap in the neck, and it was, a fitting, appropriate action. I liked it, and I agree with you about the whole not liking the hero's kill, but it just this one made sense. This made perfect sense that there's no, if she had locked him up and say, "I'll lock you away for the rest of your life," I would have felt cheated. If she would have had him go to trial or anything, it would have all been like, "Oh, come on, dude! Look what he did. You should take him down." And it was definitely a appropriate response.
Yeah, which I mean, and normally, if that had happened on Earth and it had been a Justice League member, I wouldn't be saying the same thing.
Well, with Wonder Woman, when she snapped Max Lord's neck, I felt that was an appropriate response.
Yeah, you know what?
So it's a very similar type thing where it's the necessary measures that had to be taken.
That's an interesting comparison too. I don't know, Matt. How did you feel about that when Wonder Woman did that way back when?
I like Jim said, I thought it was an appropriate measure. If she didn't stop him there, a lot more people would have died.
I guess. Oh, go ahead, Matt.
Oh, I was going to say. So I think she made the right choice.
You know what? I guess I will correct myself there, because I do agree with you guys on that particular death. I think that one was because Max Lord told her that it was not stopping.
Yeah.
And I mean, he laid it out for her that this is it, no matter what happens. And the funny part was, poor Diana was set up. Max wanted her to do it. It was kind of his ultimate revenge at that point. So that actually, I agree, that kind of worked too, on so many levels.
And also, you look at Booster Gold issues where we see what would have happened if Diana hadn't done that. So she did take the right measures. She did do what had to be done.
Yeah, well, we see a very different Earth.
Yeah.
Ron Carr, Radiation Roy, Titania are all captured by Brainiac 5's group. The Legion thought that this would be a chance to get the technology and use it to go into limbo after the others. No such luck. The ship was destroyed, and Brainiac 5 doesn't understand the tech. Imagine you are the go-to guy for this type of thing. And, Brainiac 5's ego, he's the one that, he's always one step ahead on that particular area. But you have to admit to the group, not only that you don't understand it, but that also means that the group that's out there, the squad that's out there, is on their own because of your limitation. That would be, for him in particular, probably one of the most frustrating moments. That was one of those that kind of stood out as a powerful moment for me with him.
Yeah, because I like Brainy. I like the character. In any of the Legion versions I've read, I always like the character. You know, he's a little bit schmarmy. He's a little bit, you want to reach in and give him a smack in the head sometimes just because of that arrogance. But I like that about the character and just...
The Projectress story, just to go back to that, has a very sad ending here. She found friendship and love with the Legion, but her planet was stolen by the Legion of Supervillains, her people enslaved, and ultimately she lost Karate Kid. This has made her withdraw to her homeworld to put her duties as a queen first. And I think it was so important to see everything leading up to this, to understand where her head was at, and why this was the right decision for her to make. She releases the rest of the villains into Legion custody in hopes that they can find Lightning Lass, who at this stage seems to be the only one she holds any affection for due to her bravery. Because she's kind of cold to everybody else. Not mean, but it's kind of like the emotional cord has been cut. She doesn't feel any love or joy or anything with respect to them. And that's an understandable reaction because they're all they're a reminder of her time with the Legion, which, you know, gave her Karate Kid, who she's now lost, and this heartbreak has got to be tearing her apart. But also because of her time with the Legion, she's feeling now responsible for what happened to her homeworld. She's wondering what would have happened if she had been there.
Yeah, it's weird. I can understand completely why she did what she did, and I like the fact that she just turned off the emotion because, you know, when you have like a queen, you can't be out now just bawling your eyes out, blubbering. You have to have that strength, that inner strength, and she's got to focus on her people. But I was like, man, just, hey, thanks for, you know, helping me out here, for risking your life and showing up in this. Let me just dump you in this alternate dimension. Why didn't she send them home?
Well, because she didn't have the power to send them home. Zimmer was the one that was sending everyone to and from.
Oh, okay. That because
it was either they had the choice to go to Limbo and find a way back that way, or to travel on with her through the passage. She's continuing the journey.
Oh, okay.
So her planet is not going back. Her planet, and she even addresses that. She just says, "I want to go on to this."
Well, I knew she was going on to another. Right. I thought she could have sent them back to their.
No, remember that was Zimmer.
Oh, okay.
Without Zimmer, she doesn't have that power. So that I'm glad you mentioned that point because, Matt? Is that how you read that as well?
Yeah.
Okay, I misread then because I was getting ready to do a massive rant about what the hell. I can understand your grief, but come on, these were your friends. But now it makes perfect sense.
And
I'm like, okay.
Like in that little epilogue at the end where she takes her planets and disappears and leaves the Legion there in the bubbles with the Legion of Supervillains. Remember the bits with Esper Lass where she's saying that
yeah.
It's the ultimate FU to the Legion. She basically says to them, "Hey, guess what, guys? I read his mind. I know how to get out of here. Bye." And I mean, that was really kind of. I liked that the timing for that by the writers was perfect because we really needed at that point for Levitz to again clarify to us that hey, they can't get out of there because they don't have Zimmer. But Esper Lass knew what he did, so she could get out of there. So that was interesting at that point. I like how the shield from the original Pact is the one found by Projectress guards, or Projectress guard, I should say. I don't know where this Matt. I don't know. Does the shield show up again later?
Not that I'm aware of.
Because it was an interesting hint that the story could somehow continue, or that there's somehow something more to it. And I just, whether it did or not, I just found it kind of foreboding at the end. It was an interesting little twist. Let's go ahead and talk about issue 6 just a little casually, because the premise of this story is that it's the origin story of Macht, Lightning Lass, Lightning Lad, and it's told from the perspective of both of those two. You get to see inside Lightning Lord's head and Lightning Lass's head to get kind of a feel as they're working to escape from Zimmer, because they got pulled away in issue 5. We also see the trapped Legionnaires in this story get kind of creative in how they steer their bubble to a nearby planet, using some of Ultra Boy's powers, realizing that staying where they are is not an option. They are, they need to somehow have food, sustenance. So they see an opportunity, because what was it? His vision, was it? Ultra Boy saw
Yeah.
with his
The
vision.
supervision saw the planetoid or something on the far thing, so they kind of like knock into the bubble and they're flying or however you want, gliding or whatever you want to call it. It was kind of neat.
I liked that Element Lad too was keeping them breathing.
Yeah.
Which, was just, he said, we can basically keep converting this to breathe, but we've got other problems. And I liked the kind of squad-based analysis of the drama and the situation. That really worked for me there. To me, that's kind of the neat part of these Legion stories, especially, Matt, when you were talking about the fact that they do a lot of this squad-based stuff in the Legion. So, in your experience with the Legion, Matt, does the Legion stories kind of do this where there are, like, multiple threads going on then? Like,
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's generally pretty common for there to be 3 or 4 threads going on at the same time. A lot like Chris Claremont did with the X-Men.
Yeah, which is really nice because while one story's building, you're getting some bang from another story.
There's always somewhere to go in the future.
Yeah, I was a big fan of that Claremont run too, where he was doing a lot of that. So that it totally resonates to me. A lot of the writing at this era that I really enjoyed. Sort of working with her brother, and I use that loosely. They eventually managed to convince Zimmer, a very unwilling Zimmer, who's just kind of like at this point, get out of here. Which, I mean, that was his basic gist at that point, realizing that I need these two out of here because they're causing more trouble than they're worth on any level. She returns to her home planet, and with the help of Sarah and the kids, she defeats her brother so that he can be taken away by the science police. This issue was... Go ahead.
That was a cool fight scene between, one, you got this kid who really has no power jumping on the back of Lightning Lord, and, he's lucky to be still alive, but you see him last just, charge up, and she looked kind of like the living sort of lightning bolt, just the way she was drawn. It was really just okay, she's throwing down, she's now one of the heavy hitters of the Legion. Now, you're seeing just this power in her. And I was like, that's kind of cool. I like that.
Yeah.
Matt, Sarah and the kids, do they appear again in the future at all? Do you remember them at any point? Because it was interesting. They really, obviously, they had a strong relationship with her, at least from the time that she stayed with them. I don't know anything about their history with her at all, though. Is there anything more with them?
I'm not really that sure, but I don't specifically remember them having much more of a role, but they could. It's been a while since I've read some of these.
I thought it was a cool moment, though, because what you got to see is that there was at least an emotional attachment between all of them, and even if it was just from the amount of time, because it was clear at the beginning of this story that she had been with them for enough time that the kids were familiar with her, and she had mentioned that was her pure joy of being there, was being able to be with the kids, being able to be with her. So it was nice at the end, as we see Lightning Lass kind of going into a new phase of her life, and kind of accepting who she is again. It was nice to see, though, that relationship was two-sided. It added, again, like I said, tiny details that make reality. It's sometimes frustrating in a fight where you see people that are friends of somebody, just kind of letting them get attacked and pounded on by a villain. Yeah. And in this case, it was nice to see that they were trying to, in some way, help her. And even just providing distractions and tripping and things like that. Those were moments where I was kind of like, yeah.
It's like in the Spider-Man movies. You usually get some sequence where the regular people will start, stand up and fight for Spidey. Like
sure.
The first one, when the Green Goblin, the whole bridge just starts throwing bricks and whatnot at the Goblin. I thought it was like that. You're sitting there going, yeah.
Or Superman 2 at the bus.
Exactly.
When the bus gets thrown at him, and all of a sudden the crowd gets up, hey man, that's Superman. And, the people, even though they're going up against 3 Kryptonians, they start grabbing sticks and things and anything they can grab. And, they're all rallying together as a group, saying, hey, yeah, that is Superman. Because he'd been established at that point as a protector. And they're all going after the 3 of them. So it was one of those moments for me where I was like, okay, this makes sense to me. Because I would want to believe that I would do that. If you're see Superman fighting down the street, or you see Lightning Lass or whatever, and these are established heroes or even friends, you're a friend of now that's even closer. You're a friend of the superhero.
Yeah.
and you see the superhero going toe to toe with somebody who's trying to kill her, you would have to think you would try to do something to, bump up the odds. And I liked those moments. It was really cool. Here's my question: can both Lightning Lass and Lightning Lad be on the team now? Because she left. Oh, good.
Yeah, I think at this point, Lightning Lad is still on the reserves because of
Saturn Girl.
Because of Saturn Girl. That's right.
Okay, because I remember that she said that in her origin there, which was interesting that she made that point. And I'm like, well, she's going back to the team. And I took it, too, as he was on the reserves still. But I was just wondering, does he ever come back when she's on the team?
I believe he does. And I think they just kind of let her be on the team. They changed their rules quite a bit.
I kind of see it also as, she's not the same person she was before. She's got more of a hoorah, confident attitude to her. Especially seeing when she's walking to that transport, she had the strut going that is so even if they were to tell her, you two can't be on the same team, she'd say, no, we're on the team together. I don't think she would have accepted the rules, and she basically would have told them to forget you.
I agree. She would have put up a fight. I agree she would have, because she was very determined at the end of it. I liked that because it was kind of a nice. We needed something at the end of this story, a hoorah, kind of a. So I was glad this issue was included. And it was funny when we were talking yesterday about how we were going to wrap this up because we were doing this in 2 recordings. I was thinking, I said, well, we'll kind of glance over this real quick. And I'm like, well, we almost can't. Because it really is one of those, this part at the end with her and her determination to go back to the team, you almost need this as kind of, because it was so depressing. And appropriately so. I'm not knocking the storytelling at all. But, this is the issue where it's kind of like you get rallied back, you rally again with the Legion because you see her end of her journey. And it was nice that they had both journeys going on here. Kind of a bit of a rebirth with a death. And I liked that.
Yeah, that was a nice usage. And it did need the happier ending. Yeah.
I read the run. It was Tom Pyre, I know, was one of the writers on it. It was when the 2 books, it was Legion of the Superheroes and Legionnaires, were linking for a while there, Matt. Did you read that? I'm assuming you read that era?
Yeah, I read some of that era.
I read some of that era, too, and I read a few, and I enjoyed what I read. It was another era where I was going for my, it was either when I was going for my undergrad or I was going for my doctorate. It was probably it had been my undergrad, timing-wise. And my budget was not one where I could sustain it. But I remember I had read a couple issues of it because I had heard so many good things about it, and I ended up reading multiple arcs of it, and then I had to unfortunately drop it. But at that time, I want to say both Lightning Lad and Lightning Lass were on the same team. But I don't know. It goes back to what you were saying before. It's been so long since I've read those issues that I don't remember.
Right.
But it's a team that if anybody is listening to this and you haven't read any Legion, the current series I can't recommend enough. Any of the older material, like anything I've been reading from the showcases through this, this one, Great Darkness Saga, anything that's being collected along the way is well worth picking up. These are great characters that really, through whatever era, hold up. I have a question for both of you. We've got Legion of 3 Worlds coming up, and obviously we don't know where that's going to go. We know from the teasers that it looks like it's going to be Superman Prime and the Legion of Supervillains, which is why this is such a great one to have talked about at this time. So it looks like it's going to be Superman Prime and this group versus Superman and the Legion. But on the chalkboard, that DC Nation chalkboard, there was a hint, at least from the way I read it, that the 3 Legion groups would become, there would be one group at the end of it. Do you guys want that? Or do you guys like the fact that there's multiple Legion continuities? After reading this, I'm a big fan of multiple continuities for the Legion. I don't want to see them necessarily go away. I don't know where you guys are at. Matt, where are you at?
Yeah, I like it how it is with multiple groups. It's real. I know some people say it's confusing and hard to follow, but really, I think it makes it a little bit easier because you can follow the older stuff, follow the middle stuff, or follow the recent stuff and not have to worry about anything else. And it could throw some confusion into the mix if all three are merged together, but if they do it well enough, I'll be on board with it.
Jim, where are you at?
I'm for keeping the three split. Yeah, I do want to, and to be honest, I'd like more stories using all three of the different legions. I don't know if they have the numbers wise to, like readers wise to actually have the three different eras, but I don't know. I kind of like to see, like, even in the current Legion of Superhero story, if they show the other, Legion, if they show one of the other legions, and just actually run a story arc there, run a story arc this legion, actually keep make all three active. They're making all three continuity now, so why don't we make all three active?
I agree with both of you. It's kind of funny because I agree with Matt in the sense that if there's a reason and it's a strong enough writing, and they find a way to, make this one legion at the end, I'd be happy with that as long as, there's strong writing behind it, and sure, they can make it work. And I agree with that. I also, and I think we're kind of all in agreement here. Anyway, I think we'd all be happy if they would keep all three, because talking about what you're talking about numbers, realistically, when you think about this classic legion, how they've been used in Action Comics. Mm-hmm. So you don't really need to worry about sales numbers of any other book. It's Action Comics, and they're doing a mini-series, involving them. So I don't know that you necessarily, do who has to be in what book. I like the concept, though. I've watched shows like Doctor Who, Quantum Leap, Voyagers as a kid. I'm a big fan of time travel programs, and if it's a movie, time travel show, I love those in general. And one of the common themes on whether it's time travel novels or anything, one of the common things is a single event can change the future. A single choice can change the future. That's how you have multiple timelines. The life and death of one character, a yes or a no from one person can be a big enough ripple to change what the future is going to look like. So that, to me, it just kind of, when it gets confusing, no, it's really just that it was different choices, different lives, different, there was one choice at some point in time, one event or multiple events at some time that veered off the timeline, and what you've got here is one of these is the possible future. It leaves it kind of, to me, it leaves it kind of an open slate for writers to be able to kind of use their own vision of the future. And I like that. I'm a big fan of that. So, and you don't have to worry then about what you're doing in current continuity affecting that. Because it really doesn't matter what's going on today for the storytelling in the Legion. Mm-hmm. And that, to me, is important. I like that. It's just kind of my own thoughts. Matt, I want to thank you again for coming on and doing this and choosing this particular book, because it had been one that I had picked up the run. I had not had a chance to read it. You said that you wanted to do it, so I started reading it just to kind of, and then figured we'd schedule it, and it took forever. But it's one of those things where I'm glad storyline-wise, sometimes things work out for a reason. And I'm glad that this did, where, timing-wise, we're doing this right now. And I think for people who picked this up, they are going to get more bang out of the Final Crisis Legion of Three World storyline for having read this. That's just kind of my thoughts. And, Matt, you are doing a podcast right now called The Shades Journal. And for our listeners out there, if you picked up the Starman Omnibus, or you've been on the fence about picking up the Starman Omnibus, you need to grab that volume. It's actually, as of releasing of this episode, it will have just been released. So for those of you that pre-ordered it, this is a great time to jump on the Shades Journal. For those of you that were on the fence about grabbing this book, Matt, why don't you tell them a little bit about your podcast? What is the Shades Journal, and why did you decide to go this route with the podcast?
Well, the Shades Journal is a podcast all about Starman, and in it I do an issue-by-issue recap of the series, and every now and then, where there's a natural story point, I will do a special spotlight on one of the characters from their appearances prior to the Starman series. And my first one of those was in episode 3, where I did a spotlight on David Knight and his first appearance in the old 1980s Starman series. And then I just said what James Robinson took from his first appearances and kept with it, and what changed. So it gives a good background on characters like that. And as you said, with the omnibus coming out now, and with James Robinson coming back to write both Superman and a new Justice League book, there has never been a better time to get back into Starman.
No, and it's. I would also add into that mix anybody who's a JSA fan. This is the foundation series that led to the launch of the JSA series that we're reading now. If there wasn't Starman, we wouldn't have that book today. So for anybody who wants to see, I feel very comfortable saying that this was a prelude to that series. So it's definitely somebody who's a history buff, and if you're liking JSA at all, you need to read this.
I can't agree with you more about that.
Let's talk about where people can get this, because you're part of Derek Howard's reader feed. And for people who don't know what the reader feed is, basically just as Matt was talking about with his podcast, it's a grouping together of podcasts that are more focused on single characters or single titles for the purpose of spotlighting them like this. So why don't you tell people where they can get this?
Okay, well, you can find the Shades Journal at thereaderfeed.blogspot.com, and there are also shows on that feed like Damian Smith's Welcome to Heavenside, which is a Dr. Sleepless podcast, and John Hook's Fury of Iron Fist, which is an Iron Fist podcast, and Derek Coward is doing a Fell podcast as well. And all of the shows are excellent, and it's a great variety of different characters. And if anyone's ever thought of any of those shows, listen to those too.
We're good friends with Damian Lord Shaper, and he's from Cryptographic. For any of you that are listening to Cryptographic, he is also on that feed with his Spotlight podcast on there as well. I love the experiment idea on it. When I heard about it initially, I was hoping that we would see more podcasts jump onto that one and creep up from it, because it's an interesting way to... Podcasting is kind of an open-ended, where you can kind of do anything with it. And it's great that we're seeing such specialized podcasts coming up. I'm obviously with the fact that when we started our show, we were one of the first ones out there to specialize on a specific company when we did it, because there had been a lot of roundtable podcasts coming up. And then Indie Spinner Rack came about, and I'm like, well, let's go ahead and do something with one of the big two. And it's great now to see that it's grown to the point where people are doing things like this and kind of focusing and specializing, because this is the new fanzine. This is what podcasting's all about. It's about the fan community getting together and talking about comics on a level that we've never been able to. We were isolated to comic shop discussion, which is always fantastic, but it's nice that for us as fans, we can embrace this at any time and just continue that through forums and through podcasts and things like that. So I have never had so much fun with comics in my life as I'm having right now because of this connectivity with people. So I encourage everyone to please check out the Shades Journal, because it's funny. I listened to the first episode, and I actually, because of the omnibus, I stopped. And that's the only reason why I stopped, because I want to read the omnibus along with your podcast. So it's like perfect timing for me, because I saw your episode was being released with the Talking with Davids, which those Talking with David issues are some of my favorite stories in the entire Starman run, because of his relationship with his brother. And I saw in your show notes for it that you made mention to the old Starman series, which I had not completely read. I had read broken issues of that series. But when you said that David Knight was in there, I did not read that. And it was actually, I immediately added them to my list to find in Chicago because I want to read that to enjoy it along with your podcast. So that to me is the best of podcasting, when somebody influences me reading something that I haven't read before for the purpose of just kind of increasing my enjoyment. So you got to purchase out of me.
Oh, thank you very much.
Definitely at some point, Matt, I'd love to have you back on and we can do something like this again. Jim, one thing we've been doing a lot of recording ahead of time because when we went back weekly, we kind of got ourselves in like a pretty hefty schedule, so we wanted to start getting ourselves some content ahead, which we forgot to shout out. Not forgot to shout out. It's timing-wise, we didn't get a chance to shout out our good friends over at Comic Timing. Ian Levinstein and Brent Cassina. It's 2 years of Comic Timing.
Sweet.
And think about how that show has evolved with, it's always been Ian Levinstein, but from Toby Cook, straight through David Price, Brent Cassina, Matt was on the show for a nice stretch there. It's Matt Summer was on the show for the neatest stretch right there. So it's been an interesting evolution of Comic Timing, but 2 years of Comic Timing. They've been longtime friends of Raging Bullets. We've done a number of crossovers. We have some summer crossovers planned with them with some Vertigo titles as well, but want to wish them happy belated 2-year anniversary. So there you go. Jim, we've got some listener emails and forum comments on Legion, so let's get some of their thoughts in on this as well, because this was we wanted this one to be a little bit more interactive. This is from Alfred Sedano. I recently reread these issues in order to go along with the show, and to see how I felt about this story now. And I have to say I really did enjoy it. I really liked how they did the final battle between Projectra and Nemesis Kid. We didn't need another fight scene. It was all shown in her eyes. However, I did feel that this story got a bit too light in some places, such as when Sunboy was suggested playing cards. I also wish they had shown us exactly how ruthless the Legion of Supervillains was. We got to see Lightning Lord torture his sister, and that scene in number 4 where she kept rejecting him was awesome, and Sun Emperor kill a serving girl, but that was pretty much it. It seemed like the rest of the Legion of Supervillains didn't get to show how bad they were. I was unsure if any of the science police on Takran Galtos were killed or just hurt, except for the serving girl, and I didn't see much interaction with the people of Arando. Otherwise, I enjoyed this story a lot. In addition, I know this was not written for the trade, as there was a lot left hanging at the end of issue 5. When I reread it, I also read number 6, and while it still leaves the fate of Ultra Boy, Phantom Girl, and the others in the air, it was a great spotlight on Lightning Lass, and it worked well as an epilogue. I can't wait to hear what you two think of this. Keep up the great work, and that's Al Sedano, Rebus02 on the forums. It's interesting the point that he makes. He's right, there were some very lighthearted points from characters who, for example, when they knew they were going to be having a long wait, their Sunboy suggests that. And I think, to me, what that shows is in crisis situations, you see people, we see it in film all the time, where people try to get their mind off of the situation when they can't do anything at that point in time by doing some things that are out of character for the situation. You know, they make jokes that are inappropriate and things like that. So I think it's because it's a high-stretch situation. You see those kind of things. So I guess in my eyes, that kind of rang true. I don't know how you felt, though. I mean,
yeah, I agree with you on that. It's like Beast Boy used to make little comments and jokes during the Teen Titans when there was something major, when it's just about to hit the fan, kind of like to lighten the mood. I took it as that. But also talking about the villains being nasty. We had that long dialogue about how they tried to kill a pregnant woman.
Oh yeah, Tyr doing that. I don't know how you can get an Olvir. Is something that I think we also got to talk about. Olvir was getting a perverse pleasure out of burning people with heat vision. I mean, it really showed what would happen if you had a Superman archetype, that type of character, loose cannon like that. So I do think we got to see that. I know what he's saying, though, as far as it would have been nice to see more of what was going on Orlando, but I don't know.
I think we had enough where off camera you can imagine some of the nasty stuff going on, because they're talking about how their people were enslaved, and it was just they completely took over, and it was just I think if they could have showed it, but if they had showed it, it would have gone probably over the graphic line. So this right here, it left it up to your imagination that there's some serious nasty stuff going on that planet, but it didn't,
I get his point, though, and I agree with him that I would have loved to have seen it. I guess my worry there would have been how would that have affected the pacing that we liked so much in this. And that it really was more the story of the rebirth of sorts of Lightning Lass and the death of Karate Kid, and really Projectra's reaction to all that. So it's a tough call. It's a really tough call. Yeah. I can kind of see that point, though, as far as it would have been nice to see a little bit of that, maybe in a couple panels. That would have been my only thing. I agree with him on that. This is from Rick Croxton. I've been a fan for 40 years and own 90% of the Legion of the Superheroes, either in archives or individual issues. The Baxter run ranks at the top for favorite Legion books. The death of Karate Kid ranks number 2 as the most emotional, with the death of Kal-El Superboy in number 38 as the number 1 death. If you ever need any of the help on the shows with the pre-Zero Hour Legion of Superheroes, I'd be glad to help. Your show now ranks in the top 3 of the many podcasts I listen to at work. Keep up the long shows. They help me pass the 10-hour nights I spend at work. Rick Croxton, a.k.a. Pulp Reader on the forum. I'm glad, actually. Thank you. Appreciate that we rank that so high, actually, because there really is. We had a nice talk with Matt Kramer because, we talked about just podcasting in general and how the market's grown and just how there's so many podcasts going up there. And I'm glad to see that people are latching on to a lot of different podcasts and personalizing their own experience. I'm sure if we talk to listeners about what podcasts they're listening to, you'd see a nice variety of show choices depending on what their reading library is like. And that's the great thing now. Whatever you're reading, whatever you're interested in, you can find a comics podcast now that's talking about it. And that's cool.
Yeah.
So definitely when we go to Chicago, Jim, I'm looking for Legion stuff.
Yeah, this is going to be my next probably big hunt, and part of me's thinking, well, I'll see what comes out on trade or whatnot. I'm like, I don't know. I don't think I can wait, and
I'll do a mixture of floppies and trades, and like you said, archives.
Yeah, see, I'm maybe looking at some of those archives now. I think see what I can pull up that way, and
right,
because I do want to see. I want to find out more what's going on.
I can't recommend enough the Showcase Volume 1 if you really want to see the roots. Talk about a really affordable volume, and you get 500 pages of Legion stories.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really where you got to sit there and say, wow, if I'm trying to scramble to find some of these, you can get them in chronological order in that volume. And that, to me, I'm a reader. I want to read the whole story. So if you can give me these in volumes where you're going to give me a big chunk of story, that's why I grabbed the Baxter run. When I grabbed this, the first 25 issues, they were nice, bundled up, and ready to go. So I'm like, yeah, count me in. I'm a big fan of those. I tend to look at, when I go shopping at conventions, I look for the tables that have pre-bundled runs of comics. And those, to me, are gold, especially if it's something that I haven't read before. To be able to grab it that way is perfect. This is from Red Lantern. When I started collecting comics, this was one of the first 2 books I picked up. Tales of the Legion, 327, same content as the Baxter series, number 2, and the other book was Crisis on Infinite Earths, number 5. Can anyone think of a better time to start reading comics? I had read an issue of Legion of the Superheroes a couple of years earlier, as my dad always bought comics for reading during road trips. I don't remember which Legion issue it was, but I knew then that I loved the book, and instantly Lightning Lad was my favorite. Who would have thought then that Element Lad would be the sinister character he turned out to be in Legion Lost? That's one I want to read, Legion Lost, because I've heard there's some interesting plot twists and turns with these characters. Doug Tron 3030. I became a regular reader of Legion toward the end of this run, the issues leading up to the Magic Wars, and then was on board for the 5 years later relaunch. It was not my first exposure to Legion. As a child I had assorted issues, mainly when Grell was doing the art. And one of my constant rereads was the Treasury edition of Bouncing Boy and Duo Damsel's Wedding. As I became more of a Legion fanatic, I of course went back issue crazy and caught up with what I had missed. I really liked the An Eye for an Eye storyline. It did a great job of reintroducing the Legion, and it was a gripping storyline. The Legion of Supervillains became a force to be reckoned with and had a real sense of menace as opposed to earlier appearances. One thing I like about the Legion is that death is always a possibility. Of course, with reboots and sometimes 2 or 3 times over, you never know what might happen. Projector's decision at the end of the storyline was both shocking and yet still a natural progression of events. I hope you guys enjoyed this look at the Legion. I know I enjoyed their adventures across their many incarnations. Long live the Legion. I agree with the Projector decision. I'm actually really glad that they developed that so well, and that it wasn't just some simple, I don't want to say temper tantrum, because that really, kind of diminishes it, but I mean, I guess I do want to say that. I'm glad it wasn't something as simple as that. We got to see a logical reason as to why she was so emotionally at this point where she was ready to do this. And it really had a powerful meaning when she did that. And it was an interesting way for her to leave that series. From Pulp Reader, the Legion Baxter era was the best. I've been a Legion of Superheroes fan for 40 years, and I plan on rereading the story arc you'll be going over. I've already read it several times, but it will be a great pleasure to read again. I plan to put the whole series into hardbacks very soon. We got to talk about that, actually. Library binding is a great way if you want to start binding some of your singles. And I've got I just sent it out, my library binding order, where I took some of my Strangers in Paradise issues that I don't have traded, because I got all the trades for an early part of the run just because I was going that route, and then I'm like, no, you know what, I'd really like a nice hardbound edition, because there's certain issues like the Molly and Pooh stuff from and people who've read Strangers in Paradise know what I'm talking about, that I haven't found in the trades. So I've got a source book and things like that I all wanted a nice handy-dandy hardcover. So I'm looking forward to getting that back. I also have them repairing, and this is something for fans who have trades and hardcover collections. They repair them as well. Make sure when you send them your order to give them your email address, because that's how they find your order. But I sent those in to be repaired as well, so I will be talking on the show about what the repair service is like.
Oh, cool.
Which I had, one of my Fourth World omnibuses, the binding came loose. Now, not to the point where any pages would be, but it tells you how much I was picking up that book and reading it. But I mean, it's nice because I've got this source now as a repair service for hardcovers and trades. I'm definitely looking forward to reporting that. So, from Bookbag, I'm really looking forward to this episode. I've been reading Legion of Superheroes since they first appeared with Superboy and Adventure Comics series. The Legion, more than any other team, has changed the way that they have been portrayed from the start as a teenage club for people with powers to the present day where they are more like the JLA, a government-backed metahuman task force. I look forward to people's comments, and if anyone has any questions, then please check out my website for issues and information and drop me a line and I'll try to find the answers. Long live the Legion. www.bookbag-cc.co.uk, and he has a whole big comic site, because I really like what he's doing there, and I can't recommend that site enough if you're looking for reviews and information. But that's it actually for listener content, and thank you guys for participating in that. It's great to get some more listener thoughts in there. You got some of Matt's thoughts, my thoughts, Jim's thoughts. This was cool.
This was a fun time, yeah.
Yeah, very dense read. How are you liking reading some of the older material? Are you noticing a difference between the writing and the way it's presented versus today's comics?
Oh, big time. It's looking, especially this era, there was a lot more reading content and not even to, I don't want to minimize what I'm saying. Current stuff,
and I don't mean it that way either.
It was a definite, there is a different read to it, and especially when we're getting our notes ready, it does seem like more of a lengthier process, but it's one of the things where the multiple read-throughs that we do really help out, because this is the type of stuff where I'd read it through once so I get the full story and what's happening. Then when I go back a second time, I'm looking at delving more deeply into what the character went through, what they're thinking, and that's where I come up with some of my other ideas as to like where maybe what their ideas was while they were doing this. Plus, I'm also doing like the art appreciation more. It's definitely this era, it's multiple read-throughs in one sitting to get a full, better grasp of the comic.
I took a film course in high school because we had to have an art requirement.
Yeah.
And as I've mentioned on the show multiple times, it's one of the reasons why I'm not doing a podcast and I'm looking to break into comics. I have no talent there. I don't. I can't draw a decent stick figure. So, that's not, we're here because we're fans and we just enjoy the journalistic aspect of being a part of the comic community. So this is fun this way. But, one of the things I enjoyed in the film course was learning how the way that they wrote films, the way that they produced films, the way that they displayed films, from straight on through to the beginning of silent films to today. Every era has its distinct mark, a distinct way that people act, the distinct way that scripting was done, things like that, that are kind of like landmarks of the era, if that makes sense, or touchstones of the era. Comics are the same way. If you look at the Golden Age, straight on through to the Silver Age, straight on through to, this era, the early Bronze Age, you want to call it? I don't know what era you want to plug it into. But I think even in those areas, you can break them out to multiple eras within them. And they're kind of defined by the storytelling and the writing. I don't think it's fair, and I agree with your point, to comment on quality between them. They're kind of the stamps of the era, and that's kind of the nice thing about comics being traded. Because I mean, obviously we're geeking out over today's comics, so you're certainly never going to say that there's a quality difference. It's just a presentation difference. It's probably the best way to put it. And I do like, as a fan of films historically, I enjoy being a fan of comics historically, and to see the different stamps on the era, the different way that comics were written and presented and things like that. It's very nice to see that none of it's cookie cutter.
No, everything's just, it's personalized, it's individualized. It's, as you're going through it, even from one time period, one different title will be a little bit different than the other. Mm-hmm. They'll have that common feel to it, but there are differences to it. So
if you go to an art museum, it's the same thing. You see paintings, throughout the time periods, how there's unique stamps of each time period. And that's what makes it an art form. So it's nice to see that if anybody wants a justification that comics are an art form, take a look at the history of comics and, the change and the growth and, how clearly the eras are defined. And, it's definitely an art form that has a reflection on the time period that they were in there. And I think it's probably one of the truest compliments you can give any artistic medium, is that they make their stamp on their era. And that's cool. It's cool. So this was fun. I'm enjoying these episodes. One of our contests coming up, and I've already hinted at it, is going to revolve around getting listeners on regularly to do these segments. So we're going to try to at least do it quarterly. And our next contest is going to revolve on the August one. You guys, one of you is going to pick what we're doing in August. And I'm looking forward to that. This was the fun part, was to get something that really a listener had a lot of passion for. And we'll be doing more of this. So there you go. As I mentioned, next week on episode 119, we are going to be joined by artist Freddie E. Williams II as we discuss The Flash, issue 240.
And just one quick thing, I'd like to wish a happy birthday to my brother, Sensei brother, my brother Bill. Today is his birthday.
Very, very cool. I want to thank Matt Kramer, Darth Kramer from the forums, the host of the Shades Journal podcast, which is over on the reader feed. And if you haven't had a chance to check that out, it'll be in the show links for this episode. So you can go right to this episode's show links, click on them, and go check out Matt's podcast, which is really great. And with that Starman Omnibus being out right now, did you get yours?
Yes, I got mine.
Yeah. Looks fantastic, doesn't it?
It looks nice.
Yeah, so if you haven't had a chance to grab that, go ahead and grab that Starman Omnibus. Our sponsor for this episode is DCBService.com. They have Legion of the Superheroes number 45, which is written by Jim Shooter, with art and cover by Francis Manapul and John Livesay. A massive intruder planet has appeared near Jupiter, and its gravity is ripping apart the solar system. Under Brainiac 5's guidance, Lightlass and Saturn Boy Lightlass and Starboy, Jim. I'm inventing new Legionnaires in our ads. The new Legionnaire, Saturn Boy. But they'll have to do the impossible, moving planets to the end of chaos and carnage. And this is a 32-page issue, regularly $2.99, 40% off, only $1.79 at DCBService.com. Are you reading the current Legion run, Jim?
Oh, God, yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
that's right. I'm sorry. That's right. That was your. Yeah. You were saying now that's your Legion.
That's my Legion. So yeah, I'm getting that.
Did you go all the way back to the beginning?
Yes.
Did you?
Oh yeah, all the way.
The Wade run straight on through. Yeah, I like the political.
You know me. I have to have a complete run.
Yes. I didn't know if you had gotten all the way back, because you jumped on that book late.
Yeah.
So you went back and got a lot of issues.
Yeah, I jumped back at the 1 year later with the Supergirl and the Legion.
Okay. And you kept it from then on?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I went back to 1 all the way up forward, and yeah.
So you've been with the book for quite a while then,
Yeah.
actually. Yeah. That was a fun run. I liked Supergirl with the team.
Yeah, oh, dude, yeah. It was why when I first was reading it, I didn't realize she wasn't always a part of the team. So then I'm like, wait, she's not. Hold on. Then I started going back farther, like I couldn't find the issue before that because it were listed as Supergirl in the Legion, so it was under S, whereas the others are under L. I'm like, wait, L, what? And it took me a little bit to realize what was going on. So when I did my hunting, I had to look for other spots.
And when you have them cataloged now, how do you have them cataloged, by L or S?
I have them catalog. I don't catalog by alphabetical.
Okay.
I have them cataloged by association.
Okay.
So the Legion is in the Superman drawer.
Ah.
Because Legion, as well as Supergirl, are associated with
it's part of the
Superman.
Superman family of books in your eyes. Okay, all right. It's like a futuristic Superman family.
Right.
I actually like that concept. All right, there you go. I catalog alphabetically, obviously, by my statement, but I liked that whole bit in Supergirl and the Legion, though, where she thought they were all a dream.
Yeah.
and it was basically trying to convince them that.
And then like when she was back on Kandor, and it was just like...
Yeah, that's cool. Jim, continuing our Legion theme, we have the Legion of Superheroes Enemy Rising hardcover. This is a $19.99 hardcover. It's 50% off. It's only $9.99. This collects the kickoff of the Jim Shooter run with Legion of the Superheroes 37 to 44. Can Lightning Lad grow into his new role as Legion leader in time to help the team to stop an evil from beyond the fringes of the universe? And it's 192 pages, only $9.99. So if you haven't picked up the series, this is a good time to jump on this series. I can't recommend this run enough. I'm loving this run. I was worried when Mark Waid was leaving initially because I had so much enjoyed what he was doing with this series, and I'm like, are they going to get somebody to take it over that's going to give me that same kind of bang for the storyline that I was enjoying previously? And I enjoyed the fill-in issues leading up to this one, and I enjoyed the issues with Jim Shooter so far. It's felt like a continuous flow of this series, and I can't recommend this series enough.
Oh, definitely.
This is the cool part of DCB service, Jim. Final Crisis Legion of Three Worlds, Part 1 of 5. Special discount limit 2 at 75% off.
Hoorah!
Regularly $3.99, only 99 cents. Like, how do you go wrong with that? It's a $3.99 book you're getting for $1.
You cannot beat that with a stick.
And who's not going to read this?
Yeah.
I mean, who would not read that book anyway? So they're giving you 75% off on it's a Jeff John, art by George Perez and Scott Koblish. I mean, the Time Trapper has sought to erase Superman's impact on the universe, but the Legion of the Superheroes have always been there to stop him. This time, though, even the Legion won't be enough. The Time Trapper has found the ultimate weapon to carry out his plan, a twisted mirror image of the Boy of Steel from the parallel Earth long dead, none other than...
Superboy Prime.
No, they refer to him as Superboy Prime. I don't know if that's a mistake or not. We'll see in the issue if they refer to him as Superboy Prime. But I don't care if they call him Superboy or Superman Prime or just plain Prime. Just as long as this is going to be a cool story because it's him and the Legion of Supervillains versus Superman and the Legion of Superheroes. This is going to be a kick-butt fight.
Yeah.
So
I want to see this so bad. Yeah.
And it's worthy of a 5-issue mini, because I think I want to see some depth out of that one, so I'm excited for that one. Whatever your shipping preferences, however you like them bagged and boarded, DCB Service is your subscription source, so check them out. The prices you can't beat. So people nowadays are saying, I'm having such trouble with my pull list, especially with gas prices and things like that nowadays. I don't know about you. I filled up my tank. I was screaming the other day. I'm like, I'm driving a Civic, and you're driving an SUV. So, I mean, out of the two of us, it's like enough already. Any money that you can save on your comics is good money. And I like the fact, though, I like to get my books bagged and boarded and to have them actually sent to me that way. And I think are you doing different bags and boards than I am? Or are you doing just the regular standard?
Yeah.
Yeah. They have 3 different tiers of bags and boards, though, that you can choose from right from the subscription line. So if you like a little more of a high-end bag and board, they'll do that for you. If you like weekly, bi-weekly, monthly shipping, we do ours weekly, obviously, because of the show. We want our books here immediately. And they always arrive pristine. Have you had a problem with any of your books?
None whatsoever. It's really cool. And it was funny, there was one time where a little bit of rain, we had a little bit of rain and it was outside, and so I was really very terrified. Like, oh my God, and I immediately tore into the box, and everything was fine. So I was like, wow, that was some really cool, nice packing.
I like too that they switched from the like styrofoam bubbles. They got that like package, that different
That
package.
foam
Yeah,
thing,
I really like the foam that they're using now too. I've never had a dent, a nick, anything with any of my issues. So I got to give them kudos for how they ship them. Also want to talk about InStockTrades.com. That's actually, this episode was devoted to the book that we picked from In Stock Trades. The next one they've got at 47% off is Seven Soldiers Volume 2. Regularly $14.99, only $7.94.
Dude, how can you beat that?
Yeah, and they have volumes 1, 3, and 4 available as well at a 37% off discount. But this is a great chance to jump on and grab those volumes and get a price. Remember, orders over $50 give you free shipping. And if you're having trouble getting to that over $50, for any of you that forgot to order the Starman Omnibus, they now have it at InStockTrades.com. This is a $49.99 hardcover. They have it at 37% off. It's only $31.49. This has issues 0 through 16, published from 1994 straight on through to 1996. And this is by James Robinson, who's going to be coming on as the writer of Superman, and art by Tony Harris, who any of you are reading Ex Machina will be very familiar with his artwork. This volume came, I remember with the New Gods omnibus, the Jack Kirby Fourth World omnibuses, the big complaint was the paper quality. This has that high-quality paper on it, too.
Right.
I was very shocked when I opened up the...
it's a nice, sturdy, it's a good, beautiful look to it.
Yeah.
It's,
Have you started reading it at all yet?
Yeah.
I mean, did
Yeah.
you? Yeah. Are you liking it?
Yeah, I'm liking it.
Yeah.
I'm glad I'd tell you, I am really glad I am picking this up.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I'm starting to understand the obsession, the Starman watch and the Jack Knight character up on your thing there. Yeah.
I'm envious, actually, of somebody reading it now. It was funny. People asked over and over again, when are we going to get more Jack Knight? And I actually just read a recent interview with James Robinson, and I get this. His feeling at this point is that he told his story with Jack Knight, and DC let him kind of finish it and leave it where it's at, and they haven't really touched the character. And he like really appreciates the fact that they've done that, and he kind of wants to leave this as a contained piece the way it is. And I respect that, because this to me it's the prelude to JSA. There would be no JSA series that we're currently reading right now if it hadn't been for this book, because this led to that book being kicked off, led to Jeff Johns jumping on board that book. David Goyer was on that book, the writer of Batman Begins. So this was all a prelude to a whole bunch of really cool stuff that has happened. So if you haven't picked that up, go to InStockTrades.com. You're going to want to grab that as well. But definitely check out InStockTrades.com and DCBService.com, and I want to thank them for continuing to support the show. There you go. Jim, we will be back next week with Freddie E. Williams II and The Flash 240. And, also we should mention that we are going to have a second part that is going to have Final Crisis number 1 and Justice League of America number 21, where we're going to start delving into this big event. So we got a big week coming up.
Yeah.
I was going to actually do those because the Freddie Williams interview was basically an episode by itself. But I decided it's basically going to be 2 episodes that week. It'll be a Sunday and Thursday, because we got to get to, people want to hear us talk about Final Crisis, I'm assuming. Yeah. So we're going to get that in that week as well. So you got a whole bunch of stuff talking about Dark Side Club, Final Crisis, and Libra, and all kinds of nonsense going on right now. So we will see you next week.
Bye.
A few days.